We're live, Gary.
All right, very good. All right, thank you everyone for joining our Hudson 7 Drinking Water Council. Again, this is a virtual monthly meeting for August 18th. Just so everybody's aware, the executive orders for virtual meetings has been extended to September 12th. As of what I learned just recently. So my name is Gary Bassett. I'm the mayor for the village of Rhinebeck and chairman of the Hudson 7. For all those, the Hudson 7 meetings are being recorded and streamed live on our YouTube channel page. A link to this page can be found on our website at www.hudson7.org. Okay, video of all meetings and minutes are available to the public on the Hudson 7's website as well. If a member of the public would like to participate during the public comment section of our virtual meeting, please review our procedures for public or written comment on our website. The Hudson 7 council members, you are responsible for your own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you're not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. But when you wish to speak, if you could just kindly raise your hand and I will call on you. Before you speak, please state your name and municipality for those who may be audio listeners. So in attendance tonight, we have myself representing the village of Rhinebeck. Do we have? I don't see anybody from. Is Randy on board yet?
Randy might be on the phone.
Yeah, I called in.
Oh, there you are, Randy. Okay, welcome. Representing the plant operator and a technical advisor, town of Poughkeepsie. I don't see Jay or Bill tonight. Randy, you will be their representative, I agree, right?
I'm the city representative.
Just a city representative, all right. So town of Hyde Park, Lynn's here. I saw Lynn somewhere. Hi, Lynn. Town of Esopus, Nick Butler.
Hello.
Hi, Nick. Town of Lloyd, Russ is here. Is all Russ? Yes, hi, Russ.
I'm here.
Very good. We have a quorum. With that, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have other people attending. We have Paul Malrose, who is a technical advisor, and with us tonight we have Jennifer White and Will Davey from TDI. Emily Svensson is here. Welcome, Emily. Nice to see you again as also a technical advisor. Oh, I missed Elizabeth, town of Rhinebeck. I apologize, Elizabeth, going down through the queue here. So again, and Danielle, I see you just joined.
Danielle.
Hi, yes, I'm here.
From town of Esopus.
I think Shannon is here too. Am I right? 8600. We have a few folks on the phone here.
I'm just listening in, guys, but
Yeah,
Esopus is well represented already by Nick and Danielle.
Great.
Yeah.
We
Very
have
good.
one other number here in 8593, last four digits.
Did I notice that you?
Mike Dorner from town of Esopus is here.
Great. And we have an iPhone.
Good. Okay.
We have one more. I just want to know who we have here. On the iPhone, there's no number.
That's Mike Dorner from town of Esopus.
Great. Okay.
8593.
That is Danielle.
Oh, that's Danielle. Okay.
Yep, we're all set. We're all accounted
Okay.
for.
Very good. Nice to see everybody. Okay, so we have a quorum. I'd like to have the meeting begin. All right. So first on the agenda tonight is we have scheduled a public hearing, and I'd like to make a motion to go into the public hearing on the resolution to authorize video conferencing as permitted by the open meetings law. Do I have a second?
Second.
Hi, Lynn. Your hand. I saw your hand first. Lynn, thank you. Okay. Any discussion? You've all had this in your packet. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to make a motion to close the public comment section. Do I have a second?
Actually, before you close it, just to be clear that there isn't anybody on the line to speak during public comment for the hearing.
yeah, there's nobody there, so there's no comment. correct?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry, who raised the hand for the second to close? Hi, Russ, thank you. All right, I'd like to make a motion to accept the resolution to authorize video conferencing as permitted by the open meetings law. Do I have a second? Hi, Lynn, thank you. Much appreciated. Any discussion? All in favor, please, voting members, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, I see it. Very good. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Hi from Randy.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, next on the agenda, approval for the minutes from, hang on. Our last meeting was Wednesday, July 21st, 2022. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented? I make a motion to present the minute, to accept the meetings as accepted. Do I have a second? Don't all raise your hand at once.
I wasn't
Randy,
there, so
second.
I have to abstain.
Is that you, Lynn? Sorry.
I said I wasn't there, so I'll have
Oh,
to.
you're saying, yes. Do I have a second? So in attendance were myself, Bill Carlos, Nick Butler, Randy
Aye.
Nelson.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye and raise your hands, please. Thank you.
Hi.
Aye.
1 and 2, thank you, everybody. Okay. Communications, Rebecca.
Communications this month, a report from a community member that came in on 7/27/22, requesting information, wanting to know what was going on the river. That just included ongoing work on the CSX bridge and the TDI's barge and their surveying, their solar surveying. Then we had a recent article in the Poughkeepsie Journal, Champlain Hudson Power Express is far from being in the public's interest on 8/3/22. It was submitted. And then finally, just today, we received a communication from Doreen Tiganelli, responding to the August 10th article in the Daily Freeman regarding the Hudson 7 seeking public participation, that the article stated, according to the chairman Bassett, the group is not required to adhere to the state open meetings law, but that wasn't the case. Whether the group was subject to FOIL and the open meetings law first surfaced in 2018, and the Hudson River Drinking Water Intermunicipal Council, in its memorandum of agreement, states that the council was formed pursuant to the authority vested in them by section 119-0 of the General Municipal Law of New York State. So per the New York State Committee on Open Government, the Hudson 7 is subject to both FOIL and open meetings law. And that's it for this month, Gary.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anybody else? Is there anybody else in the public that is here? I don't think so. Is that right, Becca, for public comment?
We do have public comment following the county representatives' updates.
Right, okay. And, all right, I agree with that. All right, Ulster County. I don't see anybody from Ulster. Correct? Moving on, Brad, I see you're here. I hope you'll introduce Devin again and give us an update.
Certainly will. Thank you. First off, I'm soon to be retiring, so I wanted to introduce Devin Rigolino to you. We're creating kind of a new environmental division within the planning department, and Devin will be leading that. Devin also has, a world of experience in working with GIS, and is leading up a lot of our NRI work. So I think he's a really good representative for you, and hope you'll enjoy working with him.
Thank you, Brad.
I should be around through mid-October. But the other thing would be, obviously, is that we did get you a draft IMA, and we hope you'll look at it.
Yes, on the agenda. Thank you, Brad. Okay, now we'll move on to public comment. Nathan, I see you're here. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sorry, is that me or is that another Nathan?
Nathan
Nathan Banks and
Yep, that's
Gideon
me,
are here.
that's me.
Yeah. And
Okay.
they're- Yep, go for
Yeah,
it.
so I guess I'll probably be the one speaking. I can present quite quickly what we do, but essentially, Gideon and myself are co-founders of a Princeton-based company that is trying to develop a technology for removing microplastic from rivers, streams, and effluents. So we think it's something that we're very excited about, and we're happy to share a bit more about basically how our company came into being and what we do. Is that okay with you guys? Would you be up for me sharing my screen quickly?
Not at all. You have 5 minutes total, so a few more minutes.
Could you enable screen sharing, please, so that I
Yes,
can?
Be happy to. You're now a co-host. Go ahead.
Cool. Let me see. So I'll be as quick as I can. Let's get through. Is that no, it's not that one. Let me just quickly. Yes, there we are. That's the one. All right. So hopefully you can all see my screen now. So to begin with, the vast majority of pollutants you generally see in rivers, streams, and on the beaches and in the ocean are these larger items of like plastic bags, bottle caps, things like that. And this is where a lot of media attention is focused on trying to collect and remove pollutants. And these are macroplastics. They're a huge problem. They cause a huge amount of damage to environments and wildlife, but they can be at least somewhat manageably collected with usual filtration systems and cleanups. The issue we're trying to deal with are the far smaller plastic pollutants, which is when these larger plastics break down into things below 5 millimeters in size. And these are called microplastics, and they are so numerous and so small that most filtration systems really can't deal with them. And the issue we're finding with that is that at this scale, they can easily be ingested by both aquatic wildlife and humans. And now we're starting to find a lot of traces of microplastic in our blood. It was recently identified in breast milk. It's something that's really contaminating a lot of our bodies as well as a lot of wildlife. And with all the potential toxic additives in plastic, it's something we're trying to see if we can remove from our water system so contamination doesn't continue to increase. And in terms of what's currently available for removing microplastic, there really isn't that much. So the vast majority of filtration systems, river traps, vessels, floating booms are not designed to deal with smaller plastics. They really deal with only the larger ones. And the only systems we've identified that can really get rid of microplastics quite well are in state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plants. These are things like disc filters. They're very expensive. They cost like hundreds of thousands to install and millions of dollars to maintain, just because they require skilled staff to operate. They break easily, and these big, heavy mechanical systems that can't really be used for small rivers. So knowing that there's not really much out there, myself, Gideon, and our other co-founder, Tanner, decided to sort of work together to develop our own sort of filtration system designed specifically to target microplastics. And recently we've scaled up our team, so we're sort of now at a point where we're starting to expand and do field deployments. And the initial idea we came up with is what we call the plastic hunter. And it's essentially a floating pad that just sits on the top of the river. And it consists of 3 components: a protective pontoon frame that keeps the device stable in water, a removable support pad for inserting our filter media that removes microplastic, and our proprietary filter media itself, which we call the artificial root. And the reason we call it that is because it's actually modeled on how aquatic plant roots can remove sediment from water just through physical adherence. So it's just like a fibrous filter that physically adheres small sediments in the upper portion of the river. And as microplastic is slightly less dense than water, most of the sediment we collect is microplastic. But what's cool about this system is that unlike other things like a regular filter, this allows fish to move around our device rather than get entrapped within it. So it's designed to be more environmentally friendly than a traditional filter, screen filter. And essentially how it would operate is you just deploy it in a polluted river or stream. Microplastic over time would adhere to the filter. And then once it's saturated with microplastic, you just remove the filter media, clean it off, take any of the contaminated sediment and store it elsewhere, and then reinsert the filter media for continued use. So this thing doesn't need electricity to operate, and it's also very low maintenance and very simple to operate as well. And we've tested the efficacy of this already, both in lab experiments. This was all those fluorescent particles you can see on that artificial root brush we developed. That's all microplastic that we were able to collect from our simulation flow tank that mimicked river flow. We got around 80% of microplastic out of it within 6 hours. And then we've also done a very small field test already in Pennsylvania. Like we worked with one of the river keepers there, and we were able to remove 25% of the microplastic they had in their small stream. So this was on the wastewater effluent stream. So it was very contaminated with microplastic. And the first test, while not perfect, there are variables we're trying to improve. It did actually help remediate the problem. But based on the data we got from this, we're currently in the process of updating our prototype. So we're really trying to advance the artificial root technology so it has greater effectiveness in the field, so it can saturate with more microplastic before needing to be replaced, things like that. And we're now preparing for a new set of field tests. So we're just wanting to raise awareness of some of the work we're doing, just because we're really excited to see if we could deploy our device in many sort of tributaries to the Hudson River, wastewater effluents that may be contaminated, see if we can really improve the water quality within the Hudson watershed. So yeah, just letting you know some of the work we're working on, and we're happy to answer any questions you have about our technology.
Thank you so much, Nathaniel.
Daniel, what level in a river would the plastics be? Are they saturated through the depth of the river, or are they more contained to the surface?
So they're generally either on the surface or within the first just over a foot of the water column, the top foot, because the majority of microplastic, the plastic itself is slightly less dense than water. So they generally float near the surface. If it's got high turbidity, so the current's quite strong, they can be distributed a bit deeper in the water column, but they rarely are near the base. There are certain plastics that are denser than water, and those ones would be in the sludge at the bottom, so they wouldn't even really be in the water column. But the ones that are more likely to enter into drinking water supplies or into the habitats of aquatic wildlife are the ones that float near the surface.
And the reason I was asking is because our drinking water intake are near the bottom of the river.
Hmm.
And from an intake point of view, how would that impact?
Well, I think realistically, we don't think that you're at risk significantly in terms of your drinking water, especially in the Hudson area. I think generally it's actually a pretty clean watershed as well, so there's nothing to worry about in terms of drinking water. What we're more worried about is the microplastic problem in terms of what happens once it gets through these rivers and into the ocean. So when it gets to the point where it's like in the ocean, it's impossible to collect, and there it can be eaten by a lot of wildlife. A lot of small things like plankton consume it quite rapidly, and then they get consumed by smaller fish and then bigger fish, and it works its way up the food chain. That's the more worrying thing. So we're trying to just make sure we capture these microplastics before they make it out to the ocean, when they're basically impossible to collect. That I think is the biggest reason we want to deploy in the tributaries in Hudson. I don't think it's too much of a threat for drinking water, at least where you are.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Nathan. Any other questions for Nathan?
Nathan, we'll be sure to share your contact info around with the full council so that any questions or outreach they can do on their own.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic. We're really just trying to raise awareness of what we're doing and see if anyone would be potentially interested in doing a pilot deployment sometime next year, because I think we're scaling the technology now and seeing if we can deploy it in a bunch of tributaries and streams.
We are also applying for a sea grant with the New York Sea Grant Program. So we wonder if there's potential opportunities for collaborations, and maybe we can think about maybe a letter of support from any of the groups that are interested in working with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Gary, we have one more quick update from Dan Shapley in the public comment period on HABs.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I'm calling in part for the purpose of this report. I'm out in the Wallkill and Rondout Creek today, documenting an ongoing harmful algal bloom that started on August 11th, someplace generally around south of New Paltz in the Wallkill River. And we've not just Riverkeeper, but several others, Hudson River Watershed Alliance, Bard College, Carey Institute, and others I'm probably not remembering off the top of my head, have been out trying to see what's going on. And we've seen the harmful algal bloom at points between New Paltz and west of Kingston in the Rondout Creek on at Eddyville, the Creek Locks fishing access site on Creek Locks Road, if you're familiar with that. So that's about 14 miles between those 2 points. Seen it multiple places. It shifts and changes throughout the day and over days. So it's not constant over that entire stretch, but it's a big harmful algal bloom. These are cyanobacteria is actually what the cause. They are the oldest life form on Earth, but they produce toxins can produce toxins. Those toxins can put dogs at risk from swimming in the water. Dogs die from these things every year around the country. They can put people who swim and otherwise recreate at risk from mostly, potentially mild symptoms like skin rash, gastrointestinal illness, things like that. But they can have some of the strains can produce toxins with some serious impacts to health, neurological symptoms, et cetera. So it's a serious thing. It's the first time we've seen something this extensive since 2016. And I bring it up for here because I don't frankly know exactly, but I believe that the EPA's latest unregulated contaminant monitoring rule for drinking water systems, which is part of the Safe Drinking Water Act, has protocols for testing for the toxins associated with harmful algal blooms. Maybe Randy, if he's on, could speak more thoroughly about that. And it might be, I think that the risk to the drinking water supplies in the Hudson is probably low because whatever is flowing out of these tributaries is going to be diluted significantly, by the Hudson itself. We haven't seen any evidence of the bloom in the tidal portion of the Rondout Creek, but it might be something worth stepping up monitoring for if it's something that the system specifically, Sopus and Rhinebeck that are closest to the outlet, the confluence of the Rondout with the Hudson might want to test for, because these are contaminants that are a concern for drinking water. These are the contaminants that the same type of algae on the Ohio River led to the city of Cleveland, I think it was, back a few years ago, shutting down its drinking water supply for days or weeks because of the impact of these flowing downstream from heavy agriculture in that Ohio Valley. So I think that's all I've got. Happy to try and answer questions or just put it on everyone's radar so you can follow up with your drinking water operators.
Hey, this is Grant. Just to jump in, Dan, have you folks reported a bloom on NY Habs?
Yes, yeah. Everyone involved has been encouraged to report them to that system, and most of the observations have been reported there. And so if you go to the DEC's NY Habs site, you should see many of the observations that have been made so far.
Okay. Randy, do you want to talk about UCMR4, or do you want me to do it?
Randy, you're muted.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Grant.
Okay. Yeah, because I was looking into this and I spoke with your lab manager about some of the old sample data. So microcystins, the specific toxin, was in the, what is it? Unregulated contaminant monitoring rule, number 4. So the last cycle. And they only chose a subset of specific systems to do microsystems analysis on. The Poughkeepsie plant was not one of them, based on the data that I looked at and the list of systems. That said, if there is an interest, there is analyses can be done. Mike and I have been quite busy with tracking HABs across the state, actually. So that was going to be one of our later updates, is that we have been sidetracked by that a little bit. But if there is interest in analysis, there are some certified labs in New York State to handle that. They use a protocol, is a raw and finished water sample, because most surface water treatment plants are capable of removing the toxin. So there's not a major threat, especially for folks that are on a river as opposed to, say, a reservoir or a shallow lake. Those are usually hit harder. But yeah, it's about $300 a sample, based on the invoice that I saw earlier today. And don't take it too much time. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Brad, I see you have your hand up.
And Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that as Dan and Grant were mentioning, DEC does now have a HAB mapper site that shows all the reported incidents. And so I would just tell you guys, not for your drinking water, but if you're planning to go paddle or swimming, you might want to take a look just, before you go. I mean, we don't go in the Wallkill personally, but the Esopus Creek Locks access we use a lot. So that's one that we now know about.
Paul has his hand up.
Paul?
Yeah, I was just wondering, has any sampling been done on the Esopus? When I look at the Esopus, it's just covered with algae right now. And New York City is backing off. They're down to about 15 MGD being discharged. So it's really very stagnant. And the other thing is probably the only plant that can remove it is Randy's with ozone. So.
No, we've seen success with traditional filtration as well. There's a system in Sullivan County that I've been working closely with. They just have, standard package plant treatment. And, they had some pretty high levels of microcystin, and there was nothing showing up in the raw water, or sorry, in the finished water, even though they had some of, very high levels in the raw. So, it is removable, even with just normal, slow sand and fast sand filtration.
And Paul, to your other question about the Esopus, maybe we can follow up offline. The observations I've made of the Esopus have all just been crossing roads, and I haven't seen anything that looks like a harmful algal bloom. The Esopus doesn't have as much of a nutrient overload problem as the Wallkill, although it does have the low flow issues that you described, and those are sort of precursors to help these things get off the ground. So if you're aware of specific spots that you are seeing things, maybe we can follow up offline and see if I can help coordinate to get somebody to look at it and get a sample.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Interesting stuff. Okay.
Gary, can I make a suggestion? Because we're 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
We have TDI here this evening. I wonder if we would like to get an update from them and let them go before getting into the MOA discussion.
I'm for that if everybody is in agreement. Any objection to letting TDI give an update? Okay. Jen, do we start you or with Will?
I think Will's going to handle the update. He has the most up-to-date information. And frankly, I think Paul also has very up-to-date information.
Okay, happily. So for those of you that I haven't met, my name is Will Davey. I'm SVP Marine for TDI. To give an update on where we are, there was a mention earlier of TDI barge out in the river. That was the Hudson barge doing the utility locates. And that's when we send divers down just to very accurately locate the position of the existing infrastructure on the river bottom. We've had a barge out in the Hudson and the barge out in the Harlem as well. The Hudson barge has demobilized recently and is reconfiguring, installing the plow, and will progress up to the north end of Lake Champlain in the coming days to do plow trials at the north end of Lake Champlain in the last few days of August, the south end of Lake Champlain in the first few days of September, and will then transit down to the Hudson River and do the plow trials at the location that we've centered on with the Hudson 7 down off Chelsea. And when she does the plow trials, there'll be a course of about half a mile. We'll do 1/8 of a mile at about 300 feet per hour. We'll do quarter of a mile at about 600 feet per hour, and then we'll slow back down to 300. We will have Normando with boats on the river doing the water sampling, and we're working through protocols to do some other sampling from shore so that we can simulate a water intake by means of a pump, an inlet, and a hose. And we'll be doing water sampling at the pumping point as well. That's probably the summary of it. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Paul.
Yes, Paul.
The only question I have, Jen and Will, Sean did send us the revised protocol, but he sent it to me in a PDF. Is it possible to get that in a Word document?
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. I saw your email on that just in the past hour or so. Sean is on vacation yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I will see if I have a Word document and I'll send it to you tonight. And if not, I will get you one as soon as possible. But yes, absolutely. Of course, it's okay to have it in Word, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for either Jen or Will?
Gary, maybe just give a quick preview that we're meeting every week. The Hudson 7's meeting every week. And, you know, continuing this dialogue with TDI. I don't know if everybody is aware of that. Well, we have just to summarize and end this item.
Well, and I can briefly add that I have started reaching out to all of the Hudson 7 elected officials to see if people would like, you know, bigger briefings, individual briefings on the overall project, and then to perhaps talk about a public meeting, again, to inform the public about the project.
And is there something that you could put a very brief overlay together that I could maybe, and many of us could use, but I could use to disseminate to the board about the discussion so we can start getting that organized?
You mean what we're proposing for meetings, or a sort of a PowerPoint? You know, we have a PowerPoint that we use about the project.
I'm looking for a one pager TDI, you know, an overview of the Champlain Hudson Power Express covering the following subjects, and then use that as a distribution to not only to the board, but to the public to invite people.
Sure. Happy to do that, Gary.
Okay. If anybody else, and feel free to send it to anybody else as well, if they're interested.
Great.
Okay. Moving on. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Will. See you all tomorrow.
Thank you all. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
So Gary, if you want to circle back up to the top, actions on old business, Hudson 7 priorities, Hudson 7 coordinator position,
Yes.
update on MOU.
Right, that's where I'm gonna go. All right, so thank you, Rebecca. All right, so moving back up to item 1 on our business. As discussed last month in our meeting, We had Dutchess County legal prepare a draft memorandum of agreement or an MOA in terms of how we would amend our bylaws going forward to not only one, include Dutchess as a voting member for their contribution of funds, and have the County of Ulster as a non-voting member, which they've worked out and agreed to. And then in addition to that, the payment schedule for each one of the municipalities. So what I'd like to do is make a motion to accept the memorandum of agreement before we go into discussion. Do I have a second? Everybody. So thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, discussion. Elizabeth?
I have 3 points. One, I'm still against having the county as being a voting member. I think it's not necessary since most of their funds come from our taxes and we're elected. I think that we're very capable of looking after the well-being of people in the watershed. 2, the way that this MOU is written, I don't understand why the county's insisting that we have to have a unanimous vote on this. I think that that's anathema to our democratic process. And we work by majority rule. So that's a comment rather than a question. And the third point is, can you just clarify where we are with the payment schedule? Because in talking to you over the past couple of days, you've said 2 different things.
Correct. All right, so let me get that addressed. I did speak to legal counsel at Dutchess County and said that our process as the Hudson 7 is a majority rule, right, in terms of moving forward. She did not seem to object to that, so I'm sticking to that plan. You know, for us to be as a council to vote, we can't represent the individual municipalities. If we vote to approve, it then goes to the individual municipalities to approve at their board meetings to approve the MOA and sign the document. And the goal would be, if we were to move forward, is to have that all done in the month of September, because both Ulster and Dutchess County require 30 days notice before they can put it in front of their legislation to go for approval. So, yes, Elizabeth.
I'd like to request that the agreement be bifurcated. I'd certainly vote for funding. I would like to register. I want to support the amendment, but I do not support the county as a voting member. And the other thing I just want to register is my displeasure with the county council insisting that Rhinebeck go first, because, you know, the implication is that, again, if we don't all vote unanimous, it will fail. And I thank you for clarifying that, because, and I do support the funding of it. I do not support the county having a voice. I feel that that's patronizing, big-footing, and unnecessary, and that we're fully capable of representing the water shed as we've been doing for the past 4 years.
And to address your point of town of Rhinebeck going first, I did address that with legal as well this week. And I told them that our schedules don't really align for that, and it prolongs everything if we go forward. And the meetings will be held as scheduled by each municipality. I can't control who goes first or who doesn't. So I believe that argument can be also adjusted, and we can, if we agree to move forward, we can amend it, work with them to amend that.
Yeah, I'll just say we won't go first. And can you clarify the fee schedule, please?
So yeah, let me address that. So there are, in my discussions I reached out to pretty much everybody in terms of the requirement for funding. If everybody remembers, Dutchess County is contributing $25,000 over 3 years. Ulster County is contributing $25,000 over 3 years for a total of $150,000. Our agreement from each one of us is to contribute a total of $25,000 over 3 years. It was presented by the town of Poughkeepsie that maybe an alternative solution would be to change the process in which we've been talking about for quite some time, to take the $25,000 and divide it equally by 7. rather than having it split up from large versus small. My conversation with the town of Poughkeepsie was, while that may be a good idea, several of us have already put into our budget plans the money, and so that would, particularly like villages, our plan, our budget is already adopted. We've adopted the 2,500 from the village of Rhinebeck for the coming year. We would just have to then go approve it for 2 more years. He recognizes that that may be a possibility, and he was going to take that back to his board to discuss as well. So it's really our call here. We can stay with how we have it defined in the MOA, which is what we've been talking about for over a year, or we can discuss the proposal from town of Rhinebeck to split it equally.
I think you made a mistake in your calculations. We're between the 7 of us, we're doing 25,000 a year, not $25,000 over 3 years.
Correct.
Yes. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
I just want to know, are we still with the Hyde Park, the town and the city of Poughkeepsie paying 5,000 and the smaller municipalities paying 25, or are we in a different place?
Right now, the way the MOA is written, it's written to be the larger municipalities have 5,000, the smaller municipalities have 2,500.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have no other comments.
Any other discussion? Any other questions about the MOA?
I guess my one question is unless this is bifurcated, how can I support it and still register and still not want Dutchess to be a voting member?
That's up to this council. If this council agrees to, they don't want the county as a member, that's part of the discussion here.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that I would like a way to have the MOU bifurcated so that I can vote against one part and for another part, because I do stand with this group of people. And I do think that the county is bigfooting us a bit on this, and I'm really not pleased with it.
And Elizabeth, that again is up to this council right here to decide if they want to bifurcate the MOA or keep it as is.
Okay.
Paul.
I just wanted to make a quick thing. Would it be acceptable to Elizabeth if Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority was a voting member? I would really like to see them more active in this group, since they run the Hyde Park plant, and I think they would be a worthwhile member.
Yes, I think water and wastewater, but they're independent of the county. I don't think the county has a place in this. And again, I am upset at the patronizing tone of their insistence.
Elizabeth, let me acknowledge others. Lynn, would you like to respond to that, please? Yeah, you raised your hand.
I met with the director, of wastewater, and he does not want to be a voting member. I mean, he didn't even want to entertain it. He said his job is to take care of the water treatment, and he's convinced and that his plant can do so for safety, and he doesn't want to be part of the environmental and political parts of Hudson 7. But he and I meet regularly, have set up meetings the Tuesday before each of these meetings.
Thank you, Lynn. Brad, you have your hand up.
Just 2 quick things. One is, I think the county is just looking to be a member, 1 vote out of 8, and not a veto. So I would point that out. Second thing I would point out is that the water authority is not giving you $25,000 a year. That's the county. So that's why the county would like to be a member. You'll do what you want to.
I do want to bring, Elizabeth, before I get to you, I want to bring up another comment. Danielle, I don't know if you're still on the line. Danielle brought up, and Brad, maybe you can answer this question. If not, we can circle back to it. She just wanted to make sure that the discussions between Dutchess and Ulster occurred, that Ulster does not want to be a voting member. Is there any comment you can make to that, Brad? Or I also advise Danielle to reach out separately if need be.
If you don't mind, our county attorneys are talking back and forth. That's the request that we got from Ulster County, that they at this time do not want to be a voting member.
Yeah, and this was documented in our last month's meeting as well, in our minutes.
And I'm here. Hey, can you guys hear me? It's Danielle Freer. I'm sorry, I'm just on my phone.
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah. So my question, I guess I just want to understand more about the why they don't want to be a voting member, just to kind of get the background on that. I think it's odd.
I would rather have them speak. Personally, I would rather have them speak to that directly. But in the discussions we've had with them, they were initially willing to give the $25,000 a year to Dutchess County and have us represent on the council. So I don't know in particular why they would say they do not want to be voting members, but they've always expressed that. So.
Okay. Well, I'm new to the conversation, so, and it's odd to me that we would have one county being a voting member and one county not. Perhaps there's very good reason for that. I would just like to know the background. If I could be pointed to the right people to chat with, I can do that in the background.
And I think we can get that information for you, Danielle. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments or comments? Another voting member with a cat, I see. Okay. I'm not hearing any other comments. Like I said, I've reached out to most of you. We've had conversations and updates on this. At this time, I'd like to call for a vote to accept the MOA as presented. Okay, and this will be by majority. All right, so all in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Lynn, myself, Russ, and Randy, and Nick, is that your hand up? Yes, Nick's hand up. Opposed? Elizabeth, thank you. All right. So motion is carried to send this out to the municipalities as presented and have the municipalities work through their individual organizations. The goal is to have this completed by the end of September, only because of the timeline required to get it in front of the individual county legislators to approve so that we can proceed to getting a project coordinator. Thank you all. Okay. Next, we had the Hudson River drinking water source issues. Is there any update? There was information regarding the ribs. Response from Alexander. Rebecca?
There's a DWSP2 update first.
Oh, I missed that. You're right.
Okay.
Grant.
Hey folks, Grant here. So yeah, pretty quick. Mike and I have been, I don't want to say sidetracked, but our other duties all popped up. We've been dealing with a lot of harmful algal blooms in particular. We are working on the maps. We're hoping to, if we have time, we could get a meeting on the books for the next subcommittee meeting so we can show the draft maps, the series of maps that we discussed in our previous meeting. I don't know when a good time for you folks would be. If we want to look at that now and get that sorted.
You're asking to get sorted a time for a meeting?
Yes.
I think we should probably do what we normally do and
Okay.
get some times and emails so we can keep moving forward tonight.
Okay.
Happy to help you with that.
Yeah, but that's what I was going to suggest. Can we schedule a meeting with the working group offline as
Yep.
we have past, Grant?
Can do. No worries.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else, Grant?
That is all. A quick reminder. What is it? Funding applications or competitive grant funding applications are closing in mid-September, I believe. So if anybody's interested, go and get those in. And as a reminder, the Hudson 7 will get bonus points on WQIP land acquisition projects for being a part of DWSP 2. That's all from me. Us.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Rita. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the ribs. We have an update. There was a package. There was in our package, right? Has everybody had a chance to review?
You have a response from Alexander Smith.
Right.
From the New York State DEC. I don't know, Dan, if you want to just provide some context. You maybe not, you're on the phone, so I don't know.
Does anybody have any questions that we can take and then we can try to get them answered offline? Hearing none, thank you. Paul, how about Esopus Creek? You're muted, Paul.
Okay, on the Esopus Creek, I wrote a email to DC and DEP in June. They finally answered me 2 months later, and I have not heard from DEC. My major concern was that when they shut down the Delaware aqueduct, they will have the Ashokan Reservoir at 100% full. So if there's a hurricane, there won't be any storage, and it could cause flooding. I've also notified the mayor of Fishkill or the town supervisor in Fishkill, and I've gotten no response. You might ask, why are we concerned about this? Well, if there is a flood, what happens is raw sewage, oil, gas get into the lines and can really screw up all the water sources. And if you've ever seen it on television, they always comment about raw sewage getting into the thing. But basically, New York City is saying our reservoirs provide flood storage, flood protection for you guys. And if they weren't there, the floods would be a lot worse. They also said they're going to cooperate with the county on making plans, which they hadn't done before. They always cite that they have extensive historical data, but we all know due to climate change, things have changed a lot. They use data from 1927 to 2017, and during that period, there were only 26 hurricanes that hit this area, but in the last 10 years, there were 9. So I don't know how you guys would like me to answer this. I'd like to talk to Rebecca and Dan offline and get back to you on how we should proceed. Any questions?
Interesting on the reservoir right now, it's really low. Just everything's low. And I know it's nothing DEP has done on purpose, but everybody's low right now.
Yeah, everyone's low, and that's luckily that they decided to delay this a year. And also, we're supposed to have a hurricane season that has more hurricanes heading this area than in previous years. So kind of balances out, but definitely the Ashokan is really low.
Well, let's hope the predictions are off and we don't have those hurricanes as well. But Paul, we'll wait for your feedback after the offline discussions, okay?
Okay.
Very good, thank you. Okay. An item that we tabled last month and pushed off this month, as everybody's aware, in our current bylaws, we put in term limits for all of the officers for the Hudson 7. And so those term limits have expired. I tabled it last month only because I wanted a larger quorum to be able to participate in this discussion in terms of how we want to, what we want to do moving forward. So I'm going to open, I don't have a motion, I'm going to open it up for discussion.
Motion.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Oh, no, I thought you were asking.
No, I said I don't have a motion. I'd rather open this up for discussion to see, because I'm not sure how to proceed right now, you know, in terms of where we are and what we're trying to do.
Well, in terms of new leadership?
Correct.
I'll just make an observation and then I have a question. Obviously, we'd have to amend our bylaws, but are any of the voting members interested in a leadership position? It's really, Gary, you've put an immense amount of time into it and it's a lot of work.
And I'm happy to continue, but I'm also open to.
That's why I just asked, are any of the voting members interested in leadership?
No, thank you. I don't have enough time to do it. I think Gary's doing a great job from what I've seen.
Should we?
I'll pass and support Gary.
Yeah, or then can I just skip to the chase? Unless somebody's interested, I would make a motion that we revise our bylaws. Gary, unless you want out.
I do not want out. I would love.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we entertain revising our bylaws.
I second.
Thank you, Lynn. All right, so I'll just.
I think you have to call for a vote on the motion.
I will, but now we got a motion and a second. I just want to say thank you. Because I think we are at a critical time in terms of where we're going and what we're trying to do with the Hudson 7. And I'm very happy to carry the torch to keep working with all of you, because it's a great honor to, I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing it for all of us and for the Hudson 7. And so it's an honor to if you want me to continue.
You've done a fantastic job and there's no bench here. So it's not like, you know.
Brad, you have your hand up.
We are not a voting member, but we entirely support Gary continuing.
Okay, so the motion is to amend our bylaws. That's something that is in our ability to do, to amend the bylaws to move forward. I'm not sure how we need to do that. Maybe Emily, are you still on? You see you?
Yeah.
Is there advice you could give us on this?
Yeah, Rebecca and I spoke about this earlier. I think it says in the bylaws that you need to give the members 30 days notice of the proposed change and when you'll be voting on it. So if the next meeting is, if you decide tonight and the next meeting is 30 days from now, that would be fine. And then I think it requires a vote of a majority of the total membership, right?
It's a super majority, isn't it?
Well, I think it's the majority of all the voting members, not just those that are present. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So Rebecca's posting something here.
Yep, there you go. Perfect, Emily.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have a motion. We have a second to amend our bylaws from a 3-year term limit. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Opposed?
Gary, I'm sorry. I'll let you finish.
It has to be on the next meeting agenda. We can't vote on it now. So we're
Well, we
voting
have to vote to amend the bylaws and give a 30-day notice.
Yes.
Are you
Right.
amending the
That's what I'm saying.
bylaws to remove the term limit? Is that what we're doing? Just so I'm clear in what I'm putting together for you to review? Are you removing the term limit?
Why don't we say that the term is every 3 years and there's no term limit?
Every 3 years, you just vote.
We vote and there's no term limit. I mean,
Okay.
there's only 7 members. What you're doing is amazingly generous, Gary, again. So thank you.
Thank you. But we all are going to change and move around because because we need to be elected officials. And so who knows how long we're all going to be on here.
We're only saying that we're removing the term limit the term will be for 3 years and there is no term limit. And that will be at our next meeting for a vote.
Well, right now
Correct?
the term is 1 year and we've reelected Gary right?
Correct.
So I think the idea would be that it would still be the 1 year term, but there wouldn't be
With
any.
no term limit. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
But you could also, you're right, I think I might have said 3 years because it's in the bylaws, it states you can run for 3 terms, correct? So are you suggesting you're still voting every year? Or are you
Yes,
suggesting you vote okay, great.
with no term limit.
With no term.
And Rebecca, since it technically says to give the members 30 days written notice, maybe an email or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that okay with the council to put that together so you get it?
All in
within 30
favor?
days?
Say aye or raise your hand. Yes.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Okay. I think that concludes our meeting for this evening, right?
Thank you.
Okay. Rebecca. Rebecca, do we have anything else?
One last quickie is that we were going to discuss hybrid meetings in the future, but maybe we need to wait for Jay. The town of Poughkeepsie has offered their town board, their chamber, which has all of the equipment in place to do hybrid meetings in the future. But there might be a need to discuss the date and time so that there's no conflict with any meetings that they have. So Jay's not here, however, or Bill, but that's on the agenda as the last item.
All right. Elizabeth.
I just want to make a clarification. Did the governor allow us to go through September or until does anyone remember the date?
Until September 12th.
September 12th. So our next meeting will be outside, but all right.
Unless she extends it again.
I believe she will. Yeah.
Hey, Gary, Nick Butler here.
Hey, Nick.
Yeah, real quick. I don't want to hold anyone up. We had kind of mentioned it last week briefly. I'm just kind of wondering if you got an assessment with respect to the Hudson River and the salt front with the drought that we're in. If you heard of anything recent?
I have not. Paul, maybe you have?
I have not. Probably Randy might know.
Our sodium's up to about 30 milligrams per liter now. It's been gradually increasing the last few weeks.
Where, I don't know, where are we in, where is that on the scale, Randy?
I've seen it go over 100.
Okay.
You know, we're looking, yeah, it's up there. I mean, the state requires you to notify at 20 milligrams per liter, which we notify through our annual report because every year it's over 20 for a while, but usually it runs from 15 to 25.
Okay.
All right.
Is there any sign of mixing well water?
Yeah, that'd be the raw water.
Oh.
I just have a couple announcements. I'm having a salt front meeting on September 28th. The next Ashokan Reservoir Working Group meeting, I think, is the 16th. I'm not going to be here. And I'm probably not going to be here for the next Hudson 7 meeting. So.
And Paul, I'm covering you at the AWRG meeting.
Paul, the ARWG meeting is on the 9th, as I understand it.
Okay, well then I wasn't sure. All I knew was I won't be there.
Yeah, Gary's filling in. It's September the 9th at
So
10
Paul,
a.m.
just feed me if there's something you want me to say, make sure I get that information. That's all. Okay.
Okay. Probably I'm going to try to see if we can have a meeting of our group sometime before then, before I go away.
Okay. Very good.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. All right, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at 6:37. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Russ. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, everybody have a great day.